Hello everyone, hello. I am Muhammad Kamil Wakil and I am doing my PhD in environmental science, and today I'm going to present before you a quick lecture on air pollution. So let's start with the introductory part. Let's introduce what is a contaminant and what's a pollutant. And a contaminant could be anything, any element, any compound that is present in the atmosphere, in the water, in air, in land, within certain standards that could not be harmful to the humans and the other animals and living beings, including the non-livings as well, like building structures and all. So what makes a contaminant pollutant? Obviously, when a particular value reaches beyond the mark, beyond the standards, it exceeds the standards. Then what are those standards? So these standards are generally given by our main, generally the country specific, but there's certain set of standards that are coined by WHO, World Health Organization, and other international organizations. So that's the basic difference. So that is what we have talked about. So the labels of any pollutant, any contaminant could be under certain zones. Say for example, for United States of America, that comes under good category. We call it between the values 0 and 12. For the same pollutant, for the same contaminant, in India we have set in it a standard of 0 to 30. So we had taken a bit more than the USA's, but then there is WHO standards that lies somewhere in between. So similarly, these bins are predefined into each category. Say for example, in USA we call each contaminant with the term of good, moderate, unhealthy, with S groups, S star groups, then unhealthy, very unhealthy. And in India we have these groups like good, satisfactory, moderately polluted, poor, very poor, and all. So we have this WHO standard which lies right there within the good in India, but over the good in United States. So these standards could be specific, country specific, and even the state or location based, location specific. So we have to abide by these standards. We have to keep our contaminant labels within those standards in order to have a sustainable life, in order to have a good life. And definition of air pollution says that all the chemicals that are added to the atmosphere by natural events or human activities in high concentrations to be harmful. So those high concentrations are way beyond those standards, so high enough concentration. So if the value exceeds that standard line, that mark, that means that could be harmful to humans or the others. So how high those concentration could be in order to get harmful for a particular species? So that those are all set by the experts, scientists, and organizations. We have these two types of air pollutants, which are primary air pollutant and secondary air pollutant. So primary air pollutant, which comes right from the source, for example dust, the roadside dust, then carbon monoxide, CO2, NO2, they're all coming from, let's take an example, vehicular emission. They are all vehicular emission, the primary air pollutant that comes right from the engine. And these SO2 that comes out of the coal industry, thermal power plant as well. And then there are natural sources as well, for example these mountains, these magma, these lava, volcanic eruption and all. Then these primary pollutants, when react together or whatever present in the atmosphere, they could lead to produce something, something else, which is not so primary. So they could be H2SO4 or ozone. So they're all secondary pollutant, and they're also harmful if it exceeds certain limits. And sources. So we have some man-made sources, then natural sources. In the natural source, we have these open fields, open oil fields, natural gas fields. Then we have volcanic eruption, and man-made sources could be industries, these factories, cars, all these vehicles, and then residential sources and others. So in short, man-made sources are generally divided into point source, aerial source, line source, and all. Aerial source could be an industrial area. The point source could be any particular point, that is chimney or whatever it is. They are producing some sort of pollutants. And then we have mobile sources, which are vehicles which are moving and they are polluting continuously. So they all combine to make a contribution to the atmospheric pollution, and they could be the primary pollutions. The examples are carbon monoxide, dioxide, oxides of nitrogen, sulfur, and these hydrocarbons that comes from these combustion of fossil fuels, then suspended particles, which are in the range of size 10 micrometer, 2.5 micrometer, even 1 micrometer or less. So different sizes of particles act differently in the atmosphere. So we need different strategy in order to overcome this, in order to mitigate and control. Then these are pollutants, react photochemically, chemically, biologically to form secondary pollutions, which could be harmful to the humans and the other vegetation and species and even non-livings like building structures and all. So it's an example of how we calculate the air quality of a certain location. Say for example, we have a monitoring station, air quality monitoring station at some location, coordinates XY, longitude and latitude, some X, Y, and it is detecting the 1 hour average of different pollutants. So for example, we have taken here the 4 most important pollutants: PM 2.5, which are particulate matter within the range of 2.5 micrometer, then ozone, which is not the one which are present in the upper atmosphere, but it is the ground level ozone, which comes after the photochemical reactions between the oxides of nitrogen and volatile organic compounds. And oxides of nitrogen, NO2s, nitrogen dioxide, and then sulfur dioxide. So these top four pollutants contribute to air quality. They help in understanding what is the air quality around. And then comes other things like temperature, pressure. These are all meteorological variables. Then wind speed, and all. So there's some sort of mathematical formula, and we convert these values into something else, and then finally we have binned out different ranges of these indices in order to reflect what exactly is the type of air quality of that region. So here it is. It's updated on March 9, Friday, in some date, and it was about Friday 9 a.m. The temperature was 34 degrees Celsius, wind was 2 meters per second, and it was about 26th, I guess 26th of some month. Then this is 59. This is the index, air quality index, AQI. So again, this AQI, air quality index, could be country specific or even global specific as well. So in India we have we have this index. The formulation is generally based on WHO's style. There is some slight variation, slight modification in that formulation, and we have come up with our own formulation. Then comes some major classes. So these classes should be studied and should be monitored in order to know what is the air quality around. So first is particulate matter, then nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides. These particulate matter could be, they are just solidified particles. They are semi-solidified particles. They could be generated right from the solid source or some sort of liquid which breaks into fragments, smaller fragments that could be harder to see without naked eye, and they could be soil particles, soot, and lead, asbestos, sea salt, sulfuric acid droplets, and they may contain materials with toxic or carcinogenic effect, because the several compounds, several elements, several types of substances, they may be toxic or carcinogenic or just normal things, neutral things. They all combine to form some sort of particles of some certain size. So they could be extremely harmful for the humans because they bring with them different things at once. So particulate matter. Then comes oxides of nitrogen. They are produced by the chemical interactions between atmospheric nitrogen and oxygen at high temperature. So the two major types are NO and NO2. It is called greenhouse gas and it causes difficulty in breathing. Then sulfur oxides. They are produced by chemical interaction between sulfur and oxygen. So all in all, oxygen is some sort of common villain in between those. Although oxygen is helpful, oxygen is necessary, but when it combines with some sort of although sulfur is another necessary thing and oxygen is another necessary thing, so they all combine to form something unnecessary, something harmful. So that's how the nature works. So they cause acid precipitation, SO2, which converts into H2SO4, and they could be combined with some sort of radical, SO4 radicals and HSO4 radicals. They combine with the water droplets. When it rains, it falls down with some sort of acids, SO4, and these things here. So acid precipitation causes. And then comes carbon oxide. So the two types, dioxide and monoxide, they are the greenhouse gases. The sources could be these tailpipe, these combustion engines, and then hydrocarbons, which are again some sort of these particles or these gases that are coming out of the burning of fossil fuels. So there's a diverse group of organic compounds that contain only hydrogen and carbon, say for example methane, and they could be related to photochemical smog, which is the sole member of the major member of smog issues in several parts of the world, and specifically speaking for India, in Delhi and the belt around northern belt, we have these issues in the month of November and December, the photochemical smog, and they're all contributed by these hydrocarbons, oxides of nitrogen, and, so volatile organic compounds, they come from these hydrocarbons. Then ozone. So ozone, it's a man-made pollutant, the tropospheric man-made pollutant in the lower atmosphere, and it could be a component of photochemical smog. And then it's stratospheric ozone. Is essential component that that filtrates, that filters the UV radiation in the upper atmosphere. So air pollution, the health effects. So basic, there are some gases. At one hand there are some gases, and on the other hand we have particulate matter. So there are some gases which works on the gaseous law. Then there are some other pollutants which works on the solidified law, gravitational laws and some sort of diffusions, Brownian motion and all. So the different components of these pollutants act differently on our bodies. So for example, on the upper head part, we have these headache and anxiety, all due to sulfur dioxide, and then impacts on central nervous system. It could be affected by PM because it contains lots of toxic substances with it. Then irritation of eyes, nose and throat, breathing problems, they could be due to these O3 particulate matter and all. Then cardiovascular diseases, which could be caused by particulate matter or ozone and acetone. Then on our respiratory system, the most important part, because within the respiratory system only very minute sized particles enter, and they could be really harmful to the extent of death maybe. So there's a disease called COPD, which is third or fourth largest biggest reason of death around the world right now, fourth or fifth maybe. And then there's lung cancer. There could be, the studies show that particulate matter is the reason. Then impacts on liver, spleen, and blood. Oxides of nitrogen mixes with the corpuscles, the cells of your blood, and affects your livers, spleen, and blood. And then on your reproductive system, PM, again particulate matter. So these pollutants are not only limited to the human bodies, but also they affect the plants and the buildings. So for example, the leaf damages done by SO2 or ozone, fluorides, and some peroxyacyl nitrate, peroxyacyl nitrate. Then for slowed growth, it is NO2. Then insect infestation, there's one other thing. Then effects on buildings, acid rain. These SO2, NO2, they all combines, reacts with the components of atmosphere and falls down with the water and precipitations, and falls down in the form of acid rain. And they could be disastrous in terms of corroding the materials like limestone, sandstone, mortars. The heritageous buildings are generally made up by these components, so they could pose serious problems for older buildings, heritageous ones, outdoor sculptures, and marbles. So thank you so much. That is it for today. Let's get back to you again and let's discuss. If you have found something really interesting to discuss, or if I may have missed something, you can always suggest me, and you can always give me some critical feedback, so that I can work on it and make it better next time. So your feedbacks are invited, and I hope you like that video. I hope you subscribe to my channel. Okay, then thank you so much. Bye bye.